Well, I am back again. Hello, everyone and everybody, and I hope everybody has tried to be as safe as possible or as safe as they could be during these troublesome and complicated times that we're living in with this virus. And so I have some new developments, and some of it, I'll say this. Some seems like there's some optimism. However, there's been some, how would you say, when somebody throws a wrench in your program, or they interrupt the progress that you're making? Is that a better way of putting it? Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is tell you about some of the things that I'll start with telling you about some of the things that I heard today, because I don't want to forget about those things that I heard today while I was out shopping. I was out shopping at a local 99-cent store, and I live here in Los Angeles, South LA. And so I overheard two workers, and one of them had a form in her hand, and she said that the jobs are requiring them to get the COVID-19 vaccine shots. Yes, so jobs are starting to implement that in as a requirement, or as at least somewhat of an option, and then they give you a small incentive. I believe she said that they were offering some cash, or there was something they were offering. I didn't really hear the rest of it, but it sounded like it was it was around the whole thing of offering a little bit of compensation for going ahead and being bold enough to take the shot. So it seemed like this was like sort of wavering as optional, but I overheard the two workers saying that they were afraid to get the shot. And one, she says she's seen several people that are customers that have said that when they got the first shot, customers that are now showing that, or at least telling about their experience of getting their first shot and then their second shot. And so she said there was one customer that got her first shot, and she said she was doing fine, but when she got her second shot, she looked awful. And so she said there was several people that she has known or spoken to that have been that way. Now, what I've seen recently, I believe it was out of CNN, where the Texas governor was going to rescind the mask, meaning the Texas governor was going to tell all of the Texans they didn't have to really wear a mask anymore, rescind that whole mandate, and also that everything that was pre-pandemic is going to resume as if it was pre-pandemic. Everything basically opens up 100% back to normal, even though the numbers in Texas are still rising of people who are ill. And then I was hearing that Johnson & Johnson was approved with the FDA for their single shot COVID vaccine. And that was shipped this past weekend. And so that should be appearing in local pharmacies. And so that's what I've been hearing. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. I believe some of you have seen this or maybe heard of this, as they're still giving the shots to people who are, I believe, the age 65 and over. But now it's expanded to people who are childcare workers, essential workers, some more essential workers. And so there's a list. If you go to, I believe it's it's .gov, something.gov here in California. I think it's ca.gov, and it gives you all the information about the city and the county and COVID and who's eligible on those list of workers of people who can actually start making appointments for the shots. And so now to bring me to this right here, what was interesting is when I'm going back to those two workers. It looked as though she had a form in her hand, and the form was basically, I guess it was telling her where to register to get her shot. And so I believe pretty soon it's going to be something. She said that the job was requiring is really stressing that the workers get the shots. And I'm thinking what's going to happen if you have a lot of people that go ahead and do it, and everyone else is going to have to eventually fall in line, because that leaves people in a situation where they are uninoculated. And so it won't be before long that the schools are going to require it. Now, I did see somewhere where Biden was saying, I believe, I don't know if it was it Biden? No, it wasn't Biden. It was actually Fauci. Uh, I guess because they both have white hair. And so it was Dr. Fauci was saying that probably sometime the year of 2022, kids and teens are going to be required to have at least they're going to be able to get their shots. But I believe some people are getting in line now to get ready to get shots, or they're getting appointments together to get shots. I know it's adults, it's elderly adults, and then the workers, and then the teachers, and then what I was hearing 2022 is when the kids are going to be a focus. And then I was hearing Gavin Newsom for California. Los Angeles County was looking at trying to reopen schools by the end of March. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, by the end of March, trying to reopen schools. Or March, April, May, yeah, trying to reopen schools, because that's just before like summer, because they've already lost a lot of schooling months. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense if they were going to do that. But there was supposed to be some kind of deal that was made, but the unions were pushing back because they felt like that money was going to be more spent in the communities that were wealthier, and in the communities that are low income are going to lose out on PPE, I believe, protective equipment and other little things, and some other like major needed uh, tools to keep the kids safe. And so I believe it has something to do with along the lines of that. And so, and that always happens, that I heard even before the pandemic, there was an issue with having a shortage of school supplies for kids, and that teachers were having to pay out of pocket costs to buy things like as simple as like pencils and paper and tools for kids to work with. And then especially the special ed programs were really lacking in resources or tools. So just think, having this disease, if they try to reopen things, and the schools that are more paid have more resources, and the schools that are lacking end up lacking. And here is a life-death situation, and you have kids involved. Um, so this article that I ran across is saying, where will it end? This is not going to be anything good, and so I'm going to tell you right now. I did see in CNN, and this article pretty much elaborates a little more on it, that with all the progress that they're making with these vaccines, that it could backfire. And well, for one, the Texas governor, he's talking about bringing everything to 100% like it was before the pandemic even started, basically acting as though that there is no pandemic. And he had a reasoning. I was seeing in the article, he was saying, well, everybody's been safe, they're remaining safe, and we've been doing all the protocols and all the stuff that we needed to do. So I think it's time that we just relax on everything, and that's the way along the lines that looked like that article was reading. And I'm just paraphrasing sort of what he was saying in there, and that he was going to basically let everybody do everything and go back to normal. And so this article is not going to really it's going to shed light on what's going on. And out of CNN, I was saying the backfiring is the variants. These variants are probably going to be, like I said earlier, the devil. And this is not going to be good at all. So let me just go ahead and get into this article. So this is pretty much talking about what's going to happen from here on out. And I think the big reason is because we have different personalities, different people, different ideas, and everybody is not always on board with the same ideas. And so what one person believes, another doesn't believe, another person is going to debate, another person's going to rebut. And so it's been back and forth on all of these things. Some people believe it, some people want to wear masks, some people don't want to wear masks. And so with all of that going on, the fighting, it is causing a ruckus, and it is going to cause the demise of a lot of people. So this right here says, when will it end? How a changing virus is reshaping scientists' views on COVID-19. Now, this was the optimism they had in the beginning. They were looking at these vaccines as being basically the cure-all. And what did I say? I think I mentioned earlier that I don't know that a cure would be in the vaccine, especially with the attitudes that people have. Some of the things that we've seen, even with this pandemic, the way people have been treating one another, the hatred, the fighting, a lot of things have happened, political fallout. So Julie Steenhuisen and Kate Kellen. Okay, so this is Wednesday the 3rd, March the 3rd. So correct me if I'm wrong with your names, ladies. I'm sorry if I said your names wrong. So it says out of Chicago Reuters, Chris Murray, a University of Washington disease expert whose projection on COVID-19 infections and deaths are closely followed worldwide, is changing his assumptions about the course of this pandemic. Who in the beginning, Murray had until recently been hopeful that the discovery of the several vaccines that have come out could help countries achieve this herd immunity. And so that's what they were racing to do, is to try to get everybody, as many as people, inoculated or vaccinated as they could. And so that's the reason why they're trying to push the Johnson & Johnson, because it's not 2 doses, it's like a 1-shot dose. And they're hoping that more people will try to get vaccinated before these variants came out. But it might be, like I said, too little too late. And then you have a governor who's basically saying that he's going to roll back everything as to the way it was, as if there were no pandemic. And that's the governor of Texas. And so to go on to the article, it says nearly to eliminate the transmission through a combination of inoculation, and that's what basically I said, and previous infection. So they were basically trying to get everybody, vaccinated. But in the last month, now the numbers don't lie. So the data from the vaccine trial in South Africa showed not only that the rapidly spreading coronavirus variant could dampen the effect of the vaccine, but it could also evade natural immunity in people as well who had been previously infected. So people who have already been infected with COVID or have a natural immunity to it, it could also cause them to be reinfected, and this infection might be worse than the first. So I couldn't sleep after seeing the data, Murray, director of Seattle-based Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, told Reuters. And so when will it end? He asked himself, referring to the pandemic. So he is currently updating the model on account of the variant's ability to escape natural immunity, and expects to provide new projections as earlier this week. And so a new consensus is emerging among scientists, according to Reuters interviews with 18 specialists who closely track the pandemic or are working to curb its impact. So many describe how the breakthrough late last year of the 2 vaccines, around 95% efficacy, against COVID-19, had initially sparked hope that the virus could be largely contained, similar to the way measles had been as well. So, but they say that the data in recent weeks on the new variants of the South Africa, Brazil has undercut that optimism now. And so that's the bad news. And so now they believe that SARS-CoV-2 will not only remain with us as an endemic virus, but continue to circulate in communities, but it will likely cause a significant burden of illness and even death for years, not months, not just a few weeks, not a couple of days, but for years to come. So as a result, the scientists said people could expect to continue to take measures such as routine mask wearing, avoid crowded places during COVID-19 surges. So this is something that sounds like it's going to be indefinite, at least for the time being, for years. And like, look at it as indefinite, especially for people who are higher at risk. So even after vaccination, I still would want to wear a mask if there was a variant out there. So Dr. Anthony Fauci, chief medical advisor to the U.S. of the President Joe Biden, said this in an interview. So all you need is one little flick of the variant sparking another surge. And that goes, there goes the prediction about life gets back to normal. So some scientists, including Murray, acknowledge that the outlook could improve, but the new vaccines, which have been developed at a record speed, will still appear to prevent hospitalizations. So that might help with some of the hospitalizations and the death, even when the new variants are the cause of the infection. But many vaccine developers are working on booster shots as well, just to safeguard, and new inoculations that could preserve a high level of efficacy against the variants. I'm thinking that these shots are the first shots, and I'm thinking that they're going to have to give you the shots after a certain number of time, like months, maybe if it wears down, to make sure that you're inoculated. So it's going to be like something where you have to have maybe a routine shots, and that's not going to be good, but they might be looking at something like that if they want to keep people from having more deaths. But the scientists going on to say, and the scientists say that there's still much to be learned about the immune system's ability to combat the virus. And so already COVID-19 infection rates have declined in many countries since the start of 2021, but some dramatic reductions in severe illness and hospitalizations among the first groups of people to be vaccinated. And so worse than the flu, Murray said that the South African variant of similar mutants continue to spread rapidly. The number of COVID-19 cases resulting in hospitalizations or deaths this coming winter could be 4 times higher than the flu. And so it's going to seem like a horrible sickness is still out there and people are still getting really ill. And then there could be some deaths that follow. So the rough estimate assumes that 65% effective vaccine given to half of the country's population. And in a worst case scenario, that could represent as many as 200,000 U.S. deaths related to COVID-19 over the winter period, based on federal government estimates of annual flu fatalities. And so that is this year that they're looking at. And so that is really bad. So we're not out of the woods, no way, no time soon. So his institute current forecast, which runs June 1st, assumes that there will be an additional 62,000 U.S. deaths and 690,000 global deaths from the COVID-19 by that point. And so the model includes assumptions about vaccination rates as well as the transmissibility of South African and Brazilian variants. So the shift in the thinking among scientists has influenced more cautious government statements about when the pandemic will end. So they're not telling that anymore. So when people ask when is it going to end, don't look for it to end, especially now that we have, I have to repeat, that we have a governor that's basically rolling back everything. He's basically saying, let's go back to where the way things were, as if there is no pandemic. And so this is not sounding good at all. And if you're going to have more people that are going to be exposed to it, then it's going to spread more. So the shift in thinking among scientists has influenced more cautious government. Government. I'm looking. Oh, okay. Statements about when will it end. So they can't do that. So Britain last week said it expects a slow emergence from one of the world's strictest lockdowns, despite having one of the fastest vaccination drives. Okay, so U.S. government predictions of the return to more normal lifestyle has been repeatedly pushed back because of all of this. This is not good. So I hate to say this. This is not good at all. So it says most recently, late summer to Christmas, then March 2022, Israel issues green pass immunity documents to people who have recovered from COVID-19, been vaccinated, allowing them back into hotels and theaters. So that's how serious this is. It's like, it's not just like a regular flu. So the documents are only valid for 6 months because it's not clear how long immunity lasts. And so, what does this mean to be past the emergency phase of the pandemic? Said Stefan Baral, the epidemiologist of Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. While some experts have asked whether countries could completely eradicate any case of COVID-19 through vaccine stringent lockdowns, Baral sees the goals as more modest but still meaningful. And so some people are still somewhat hopeful, but the hope is not as bright as it started out. But it depends on the people. It depends on the mindset, the ideas. Everybody's got all these different ideas here, especially in America. And I believe that it's not just here, but it seems a lot here. So in my mind, it's that hospitals aren't full and ICUs aren't full and people aren't tragically passing, like we've seen earlier. So scientific whiplash. In the beginning, the new coronavirus has been a moving target. And so early in the pandemic, leading scientists warned that the virus could become an endemic and may never go away. So that's what the endemic means. It may never go away. And I've been hearing a lot about that. And so remember that word endemic, meaning it never goes away. And so it's something that is going to be with us for many, many years to come. And you just have to be prepared to either vaccinate or protect yourself as best you can. So including Dr. Michael Ryan, head of the World Health Organization Emergencies Program, said that. And so yet they had much to learn, including whether it would be possible to develop a vaccine against the virus and how quickly it would mutate as well. So would it be more like measles, or which can be kept almost entirely at bay in communities with high rates of inoculation, or the flu, which infects millions globally each year? So for much of 2020, many scientists were surprised and reassured that the coronavirus had not changed significantly enough to become more transmissible or deadly. But a major breakthrough came in November of Pfizer Inc. and the German partner BioNTech SE, as well as Moderna Inc., said their vaccines were around 95% effective in preventing COVID-19 in clinical trials, an efficacy rate that is much higher than any flu shot. So at least a few of the scientists Reuters interviewed said that even in the wake of those results, they had expected the vaccine to wipe out the virus. So many told Reuters that the data raised hope within the scientific community that it would be possible to virtually eliminate COVID-19 if only the world could vaccinate quick enough. So that was their goal, but we see what's going on now. We had people that were complaining in these communities, such as South LA and other communities like South LA, where the people who needed the vaccine the most aren't getting it. It's not coming fast enough. Or you have people that are, making up stories. They're lying, they're cheating, they're cutting their way through line, or they're stealing codes to get the vaccine, and they don't even live in the communities that are hardest hit. And so that's slowing the process up. And then too, you've got vaccines where you have to take 2 doses, where you have to get 1 shot and then wait 28 days to get the second shot. And then they were saying some people were not getting the second shot. So there's a lot of things that were happening that weren't making sense. And so there's a lot going on. So we felt quite optimistic before Christmas with those first vaccines. So this was said by Azara Ghani, chair and the infectious disease epidemiologist of Imperial College London. So we didn't necessarily expect such high efficacy vaccines to be possible in the first generation. So the optimism proved short-lived. So in late December, the UK warned that a new, more transmissible variant, this is where they get into all the variants. So the UK was one that had sounded the alarm that it was quickly becoming a dominant form of the coronavirus in their country. So around the same time, researchers learned that the impact of the faster spreading variants also in South Africa and Brazil were also troublesome. And so Phil Dormitzer, a top vaccine scientist at Pfizer and told Reuters in November that the U.S. drug maker vaccine success signaled the virus was vulnerable to immunization. So in what he called a breakthrough for humanity, by early January, he acknowledged the variants heralded a new chapter in which companies will have to constantly monitor for mutations that could dampen the effect of the vaccines. And so this is pretty serious. So it basically, I saw in CNN, and it wasn't that big. It was like a little smidgen of a paragraph where they said it could backfire everything where the vaccines, and this is going to sound like doom and gloom, where these vaccines we're getting don't work at all. And so that's really scary. It's basically taking us to a situation where we're not safe and more deaths could happen, even more. So in late January, the impact of the vaccines became even clearer. So Novavax clinical trial data showed its vaccine at 89% effective. In the UK trial, it's 50% effective at preventing COVID-19 in South Africa. But just 50% effective at preventing COVID-19 in South Africa. And so that followed a week later by data showing that AstraZeneca PLC vaccine offered only limited protection for mild disease against South African variants. So the most recent change of heart was considerable. Several of the scientists told Reuters. So Shane Crote, a virologist at the La Jolla Institute in Immunology of San Diego, described as scientific whiplash. That's what the word that they use, scientific whiplash. In December, he had believed that it was plausible that to achieve a so-called functional eradication of coronavirus similar to the measles. But now this is all changing, getting as many people vaccinated as possible. Now getting them as many people as vaccinated as possible is still the same answer, but in the same path forward as it was on December 1st or January 1st, Crote said, but the expected outcome isn't the same. And so that's what basically they were saying, that they're not as optimistic. I mean, there's still a chance that, they could at least get enough people vaccinated. But, like I told you, what I heard in the conversation with these 2 workers at 99 cents, that one was saying she didn't get the flu shot and she didn't want to get the COVID shot. The other one says she just didn't want to get it because she was scared. And both of them said that they were afraid, they didn't know what was in it. And so just think about a lot of people that feel that way. And so some people electively are not getting the shot. And then we're hearing about some strange deaths after people get the shot. And so I think people who are getting the first shot and then when they get the second shot, if they have a bad reaction, it scares others that have friends or people they know have gotten the shot. And so this is what are forming the opinions in the minds of people right now. And so I'm just letting you know that's pretty much where we're at on that. And Biden, he made his basically he made his opinion about the Texas governor that it was a really bad idea for this governor to just roll back the clock and pretty much start where we left off as if there was no pandemic. So what are your thoughts on this? Because this doesn't seem like it's going to go at any time soon. It says that it could be an endemic, and I believe it will, especially if you have governors that are saying, let's just go back to everything that it was, as if there was no pandemic in the beginning. And so having said that, I'm going to let this video go. This doesn't look good. I know this is not good news at all. And it's sad because, like I was saying, if you want something to work, you got to really try to follow through and work collectively as one unit to try to get a hold on this. But it doesn't look like everybody is on board. Everybody doesn't have the same ideas on how to approach eradicating this disease. So, which is now becoming more virulent, more transmissible, more contagious. And I guess people have to see something dramatic, even more dramatic than it has been dramatic. But I feel like people almost, it's like they have to see somebody drop at their feet in order to realize, yeah, this is bad. It's sad that some people are like that. And, anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Comment, what do you think about this? Do you think this thing is ever going to go away? I really don't think it is, to be honest with you. That's my opinion. Too, another thing is I really do believe that the jobs are going to start requiring people to get these shots, especially with what I'm hearing is going on, that this could be an endemic. They're trying to create booster shots. And I don't think they're just going to have a bunch of, vaccine just sitting there. I think it's going to be something that's going to be required in the near future, very near future. And so what does that say about anti-vaxxers? People who don't want their kids to get the vaccination shots, the regular vaccination shots. This has got to be really crazy, huh? And then what about people like I said, the girls in the 99-cent store who were saying they were afraid, and then people who have already formed their opinions about these shots, if they're even, and then you got some people who are lying, cheating, doing whatever they can to get shots, and those shots may not even work. Thanks for listening.